Okay, welcome everyone. I will call the York County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. It's great to see Father Tancredi back, who's going to leave Sunday vacation, and veteran Fred Rudisil, who has a birthday next week. So make sure to wish him happy birthday. I won't tell you how old. He can tell you that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Lord, source of wisdom and compassion, we gather today with the York County Commissioners during this special year in which we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Open our eyes to the wonders of creation and to the dignity and worth of every human person. Inspire us to cherish the many gifts that surround us, to care faithfully for our shared home, and to share generously with one another. Grant us the wisdom to deliberate with respect, the courage to act with integrity, and the compassion to seek a common good. May our work today be marked by kindness, cooperation, and hope as we strive together to enrich the lives of all the people of York County. Guide all who hold positions of public trust. Bless everyone who serves this community, and help us build a future rooted in justice, peace, and mutual respect.
Amen.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 15th, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting as submitted.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll turn it over to Mr. Dahl.
Good morning. So today's agenda, we have 25 motions. A majority of these motions are just the renewals of agreements with different service providers for the human service departments. We're at that time of year where the fiscal year for the Commonwealth ends, and then the new year starts. So that triggers the renewals for these agreements. I'd also just like to take a moment to recognize a student here from the York Academy, Sean Brubaker. He's here learning about government and also doing some research for a paper that he's writing. So welcome. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Dahl?
None from me.
Hearing none, I will open it up for any public comment as it relates to items listed on the agenda. Hearing and seeing none, move on to item number 5.
Madam President, I move to suspend the meeting for purposes of the public hearing as listed on the agenda this morning as item number 5.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in recess.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a public meeting for discussion and presentation on the proposed amendments to the York County Comprehensive Plan by the York County Planning Commission. Today's public hearing was advertised on July 15, 2026, and also on July 22nd, 2026. There was previously an advertised public review comment period from June 5th, 2026 to July 20th, 2026, and previously a public meeting held on June 16th, 2026 before the York County Planning Commission. I'll turn over the hearing to the Planning Commission for, I believe, a presentation that they have.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jesse King. I'm Deputy Director of Planning with the York County Planning Commission. Thank you for this opportunity today to provide an overview of the York County Comprehensive Plan amendments. York County's Comprehensive Plan is a compilation of 9 interconnected documents which together work to support the York County Planning Commission's mission to guide sustainable development and preservation to improve the quality of life in York County. Next slide, please. These 9 documents include the Growth Management Plan, the Agricultural Land Protection Plan, the Economic Action Plan, the Go York Long Range Transportation Plan, the Hazard Mitigation Plan, the Heritage Preservation Plan, the Housing and Community Development Plan, the Integrated Water Resources Plan, and the Open Space and Trails Plan. These documents are maintained by the York County Planning Commission and reviewed every 5 to 10 years to ensure that each component remains relevant and consistent with the goals of the County Comprehensive Plan. The purpose of today's public hearing is to discuss amendments proposed to 4 components of the County Comprehensive Plan, which involve a full update of the Open Space and Trails Plan, a full update of Go York, the Long Range Transportation Plan, a partial update to the Economic Action Plan, incorporating a 5-year progress update, impact report, and 5-year progress update and refresh, and an update to Map 20 of the York County Growth Management Plan titled York County Growth Management Map 2026. As part of their July 21st, 2026 meeting, the York County Planning Commission passed motions to recommend the York County Commissioners adopt the proposed amendments to the York County Comprehensive Plan. Here with us today to discuss the proposed amendments are David Gonzalez, Director of Economic Initiatives and Advocacy with the York County Economic Alliance, Chris Kaba, Chief of the Transportation Division with the YCPC, Ann Walco, Senior Planner in the Long Range Planning Division with the YCPC, and Roy Livergood, Chief of the Long Range Planning Division with the YCPC. I will now turn the presentation over to David to provide an overview of the proposed amendments to the Economic Action Plan.
Good morning, Commissioners and members of the public. So, as Jesse noted, we're giving an update on the York County Economic Action Plan. For point of reference, it was adopted in 2020 as a part of the comprehensive plan through a year-long planning effort where we engage about 2,000 some stakeholders throughout the county to be able to provide some context and perspective on what it looked like 10 years from now for how our community would be more economically competitive. So that's what the initial plan sort of details. This was through the realm of conversations and surveys, individual work groups, co-chairs, organizations at large providing perspective. In 2025, we hit sort of that midpoint period. We wanted to be able to reflect on the progress to date and then also incur different changes with data, climate at large, to be able to ensure that the next 5 years could be just as successful as the previous 5 years. So much so that in the first 5 years, we noted about 90% completion of items or items had started their progress. And that is in advance of the 10-year plan, noting that 5 years, we had 90% of that already. So good thing to see. However, we wanted to see the items that we didn't make as much progress on, how could we make some adjustments to reflect the changing climate here in our community. So heading to 2030, we'll be poised for even greater success, focusing on all of our focus areas and with renewed metrics as such. Thank you. For the EAP, just for context, there's 7 different focus areas attributed in the Economic Action Plan, many of which you can sort of guess, but they cover the broad swath of our economy at large. Future of Industry is focusing on the large industry that York County is made up of. Supporting those target industries for modernization purposes and also making sure they're making the technological advancements to be able to compete in the global market. Workforce development, looking at just all the barriers that our workforce incurs in York County at large, thinking of the opportunities for education, thinking of the opportunities for access through transportation, childcare, what have you, and looking at those barriers as a holistic approach opposed to just individual items. Entrepreneurship, small businesses, entrepreneurs, making sure that they have the pathways to resources, the pathways to operate in our smaller communities, in our main streets, whether it's out of their homes or in brick and mortars, looking at those opportunities in a holistic approach for both resources for education and also from grants and financing tools. Economic mobility says it in the name, really looking at the opportunities that all of our residents can have an equal playing field for whatever their ambitions are in their economic journey. And then quality of place is also focusing on the third spaces. When you're not at home, when you're not at work, when you're not sitting in meetings and going through the course of your day, what are you doing that makes your county so great? And what are you doing in the realms of just improving your quality of life at large? So those are kind of the focus points of quality of place. Infrastructure and built environment, I can summarize quickly as utilities and overall the places, the mechanisms you use to get to the places that you want to go. And largely, it also incorporates housing. The buildings and infrastructure all throughout our community. Housing, for instance, has a note on it for the 142 items in the Economic Action Plan as simply conduct a conditions and needs assessment that has created a flurry of additional initiatives from that, but I can show you just that one item has a lot of more ripple effects than just the item and it's laid out in the plan itself. And then rural economy, last but certainly not least, is focusing on the rural elements of our community at large. The agricultural-based businesses, the rural economy, and rural businesses and how they operate and making sure that they're more competitive in the long term. So the Economic Action Plan, so as Jesse noted, we did an impact report for the 5-year progress. Really, that's kind of identifying, again, all of what has happened in the last 5 years. Are we meeting those metrics? And what are the areas that we need to address further? And in the next slide, we talk about updating and refreshing the report. So again, based off of what we've done, where are we headed? And also injecting the new data via census data, via federal, state, local data, and then also what are the data that some of our nonprofit partners, some of our community partners at large sit on that maybe can be better leveraged in this. So that's what we took a strong look at, and again, engaging work groups throughout the community to be able to foster that. So we have a lot of different metrics of success. We have a lot of new specific strategies that we're approaching, and all of this is sort of mirrored with the 2 reports, and additionally a benchmarking tool that is available on the Economic Action Plan website as a way to monitor the success on a quarterly basis moving forward. And just as a teaser for the Economic Action Plan, as I noted, we looked at different focus areas and where areas needed more assistance. Economic mobility, for instance, where we're looking at those high wage opportunities, often which is that we have a lot of jobs coming to York County. We actually, back in 2024, noted about 5,000 net job growth in York County. Okay, but from the skill sets that we have here in the community, are they going to put our existing residents in place to be able to achieve those high earning potential jobs? So that's something we're looking towards as a part of it. Quality of place, again, double down on the cultural assets, our recreational assets, looking at previous reports and studies that we've engaged in. We engaged in one previously with the Cultural Alliance, doing a cultural and outdoor assessment of both from the funding side and the sustainability side of some of our assets. So again, double downing on that and looking at the long term. And then rural economy, as I mentioned beforehand, we need more of an emphasis on just the rural-based businesses in our community. How can they be more competitive? From a municipal standpoint, how can we better support municipalities in ultimately making it easier for businesses to operate in those communities, and then some. And I'll turn it over to Chris Caba for the transportation update.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's great to be here. Thank you for your time this morning. The Go York 2050 plan, not only is this the transportation element of the York County Comprehensive Plan, but is also our York Area MPO Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or otherwise known as our Long Range Transportation Plan. And it includes everything that we do at the Planning Commission for our transportation work, staff work plans, safety planning, corridor studies, major capital improvements, policy promotion, biking, walking, transit planning, freight planning, congestion management, and our transportation improvement program, which is our 4-year listing of all of our projects that we have going on. Next slide. Within the Go York plan, 8 separate scenarios were developed to guide future planning efforts, and all of these are at the intersection of our funding amounts, land development and growth, as well as all of our transportation modes. Next slide. These scenarios were then grouped into 4 different categories: daunting disappointments, typical tendencies, convenient celebrations, and lofty legacies. And they were based off of the likelihood of achieving them, as well as the desirability of each scenario. And so any type of scenario that is higher in desirability is obviously the one that we are reaching for. But then the typical tendencies are the more likely that we will have them. However, they're not as desirable as some of the other scenarios. So 16 objectives were identified to meet the established vision and goals of the plan. All 16 are ordered by priority from left to right, so safety hazards, barriers to active transportation, insufficient fragmented funding, and inequitable access are the top 4 objectives that we have identified, and all reflect a balance of immediate impact on lives and community well-being, the feasibility of actions by municipalities, the county, and YAMPO, which is the York Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, cascading effects on solving other problems, as well as the alignment with our values and the transformative vision of the lofty legacy scenario that I discussed. Next slide. Finally, just to keep this brief, these are the strategies that are required to fulfill the previously identified objectives. And you can see we have everything from safety, congestion, working with the public, and having more education, as well as a balance of working with all of our municipalities, the county government, and the state to ensure that we can meet all of the objectives and the goals within the plan. That's about it for me. Thank you for your time.
Everyone. Ann Walko here to talk a little bit about the Open Space and Trails Plan component of the County Comprehensive Plan. Just for background, the Open Space and Trails Plan is a complete update to our Open Space and Greenways Plan, which was adopted by the commissioners and included in our County Comprehensive Plan in 2006. Along with this update to the Open Space and Greenways Plan, we've worked with our friends at the Rail Trail Authority to incorporate the trails component from the County Trails Plan from 2011. So we've got an updated open space and trails plan for the county's use and implementation. Starting off with just basically the 4 purposes of this plan were to preserve and protect the natural areas that we have in the county that make us unique. Open space is defined as farmland, recreation land, parks, woodlands, wetlands, all of those components that make the county unique, different, and a great place to live. We also want to look at fostering healthier and more connected communities. Access to open space has numerous benefits, a lot of which can be tied to personal health and wellness. Creating a legacy of open space and trails that will inspire us as current residents and for the future to protect what we have and maintain the quality of life that we've all become very accustomed to and enjoy. And to ensure that related decisions that we make are coordinated rather than separate. Another key aspect of our open space and trails planning is looking at existing and proposed trail corridors. We worked with our friends at the Rail Trail Authority and our transportation planners at the County Planning Commission to identify trail corridors that are potential. They've been run through an evaluation criteria that we've established again with our colleagues at the Rail Trail Authority and our colleagues at the Transportation Department within the Planning Commission to look at the feasibility of some corridors that have been identified for many years over time, and looking at the possibility for those trails to materialize into something more than just corridors on a map. So we're proud to show these proposed trails and the proposed corridors, and this will be part of the implementation of this plan to evaluate these on a regular basis to see if anything has changed, if potential for any movement in these areas has been identified. Our 2026 Open Space and Greenways Plan, probably one of the most significant features of that was the establishment of a preservation benchmark for the county. In that plan, we've identified a benchmark to preserve or protect 2,500 acres of land annually. Since 2020, when the commissioners authorized the Open Space and Land Preservation Program, dedicating funding to that, we have been able to, we meaning the county as a whole, have been able to preserve an average of over 3,100 acres per year. So this plan will continue to keep the benchmark of 2,500 acres per year and keep the momentum of preserving and protecting land for ourselves and for our future in place. The chart on the right just shows the progress that we've had in that area. There's also some funding available for grants that promote the open space acquisition and planning. So you can see to the left of that, after 2020, when the county authorized the program, we've met or exceeded the land preservation goals for the county. I'm very proud of that. And I will turn it over to Roy Livergood. He will close it out for us to talk about the updates to our growth management map.
Good morning, Commissioners. Our final amendment today is to the York County Growth Management Plan, more specifically Map 20 of that plan. Map 20 depicts established growth, primary growth areas, secondary growth areas, and future growth areas, as well as established rural areas. These areas were established as part of working with our municipalities to identify those areas as part of planning processes in the past. The map is significant because it provides the basis for many of the decisions we make for consistency in planning decisions in the county. Since the last update to the growth management plan in 2017, we've worked with approximately 26 municipalities as part of planning efforts. Many of those efforts resulted in changes to these areas.
Here, I got it.
Oh, you got it? Thank you.
I'm not sure why the click.
Oh, back one, sorry. That's good. This map shows where it depicts in yellow where those changes have taken place. Approximately 10 municipalities adopted changes to the growth and/or rural areas. Most of those changes were to the primary growth areas where there were minor expansions based on that were identified as part of the planning efforts. There's actually one area where a growth area was retracted around Lewisberry because the development from the previous planning effort was not realized, so they decided to retract that growth area. Some of the other things that are depicted on this map are some areas that are considered inconsistent, and we've had to agree to disagree as far as the location of the growth area. Usually those inconsistencies are based on areas being included within the growth area that would not naturally support growth or are not well suited for growth. Those are designated by the yellow X's on the map. We had one area that was removed in Helen Township, but we also added one area in Spring Garden Township and then several areas in York Township. Those areas are identified so for future consideration, if development would be proposed in those areas, it's just kind of like identifier for future consideration. And with that ends our presentation today on the amendments to the county comp plan. I'd like to turn it back to the county commissioners and ask if you have any questions or comments, and then ask that those in attendance today be given a chance to provide comments as well as part of the public hearing. Thank you.
I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
So, well, regarding your slide, oops, where the yellow X's are, would you be able to provide us the backup as to why they have X's? And you don't have to provide that today to us, but if you could follow up and let us know.
I can do it real quickly for
Sure.
Spring Garden and York Township. Those areas that are shown there, they included ag and conservation areas that were included within the growth area along the boundary, which would not be usually be excluded from the growth area. So we had to identify those areas. They're small areas, but they're still inconsistencies, so we had to identify them, and so that they're taken into consideration as part of future planning efforts. As far as East Manchester, there were some agricultural areas that were included within the growth areas that we thought should be excluded, and they were still included.
Okay. I don't have any questions for Roy. I do have other questions. Anyone have any questions for Roy?
You know, building on Commissioner Wheeler's question regarding the areas of inconsistencies, just to clarify, these are inconsistencies with the local planning organizations and the York County Planning Commission, correct?
Yeah, it's an inconsistency between the two documents, and
Yeah.
they're identifying that inconsistency. So when we move forward with our planning efforts, we're aware of where those are.
Great. I just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. The next question I have is for Ann. So my question for you relates to the target of 2,500 acres a year. What's the total target? Have you guys discussed if the county preserves X amount of acreage, we will have succeeded? What's that number?
I don't know that there's a number that's been calculated out to the future. This seems to be consistent with the current pressures for development and the current available land that would be prime for preservation and conservation. We did vet the 2,500 acre per year benchmark with our County Land Preservation Committee, which is comprised of representatives from county parks, Farm and Natural Lands Trust, Ag Land Preserve Board, Conservation District, and staff from the Commissioner's Office. And that group of professionals felt that that was indicated to at least be the short-term benchmark that we maintain. Again, it's just, I don't know that there's an end number in sight, but this seems to be a realistic annual goal to.
I think we should challenge ourselves to figure out what that is so that we can celebrate that. So I would ask you to go back to your group and kind of just some ballpark number of what we're targeting to preserve seems to make sense. Any questions for Ann?
I'm good.
And then I have one question for Chris. So on this slide here, you talked about all of your strategies. My question is, are there underlying action items that have been identified with each one of these strategies?
Yeah, the entire planning document has an outline of what needs to be addressed as part of each strategy and which strategy goes with each objective. So everything is spelled out in the plan. I could provide all of that information to you in an easier to read way than the entire 300 pages.
That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any questions for Chris? Any questions for anyone
good.
else?
I'm good.
Thank you all for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Really
Yep.
appreciate it.
We now open the public meeting for any public comment on the proposed amendments. Seeing none, I believe that concludes the public hearing, and we'll turn the meeting back over to the commissioners.
Madam President, I move to reconvene the Commissioners' meeting.
I'll second motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We will reconvene our meeting and move on to new business.
Madam President, I move to adopt and approve items number 1 through 25 as presented on this morning's agenda.
I'll second motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There were no executive sessions since our last meeting. Unless someone has other business, there's nothing to report from an other business standpoint. So I will open it up again for any public comment. Hearing and seeing none, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned, and we will move on to salary board.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 15th, 2026 Salary Board meeting as submitted.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will open it up for any public comment as it relates to items on the agenda. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4.
I make a motion to approve the positions, salaries, hours of work, and fringe benefits as provided by existing collective bargaining agreements or set forth in the York County Employee Handbook or York County Policy Manual for the following departments and row offices as stated below, with no additional benefits or concessions as otherwise noted, and there is listed in the agenda.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There were no executive sessions since our last meeting. I will open it up once again for any public comment. Hearing and seeing none, if I can have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned, and if you haven't been to the fair yet, go check it out this
Yep.
week. Thank you.
Bless you. Huh? It's road.
Something blew in my throat.